Hey everyone, welcome to another top 10 video. This week's top 10 video is from a suggestion someone made. They said I should do a top 10 video featuring notes with Abraham Lincoln. And I thought, that's a pretty good idea. Then I started pulling out all the notes with Abraham Lincoln, and there's quite a few. So, this week, I'm going to do the top 10 small size notes featuring Abraham Lincoln. And next week, I'll follow it up with the notes that aren't the small sized notes. I think there's 10 of those that I can do as well. Some of those might have to be some of my replica notes just because some of them can be quite expensive. But all the notes I'm showing this week are the real deal. So let's get started. I have two honorable mentions, one of which, look in your pocket, it's a $5 bill. We're not going to count that one because you know what that looks like. The other honorable mention might be in your pocket, and that's this one. That's the monochrome note. The monochrome series has the large head versus the small head. It does have the border around Lincoln, and you can see that right there. It's called the monochrome because the paper is one color and you've got the black ink on the front. That's it. So that's the monochrome edition. Just an honorable mention, but these are extremely tough to find in good condition. You can find them circulated all the time. Finding them in good shape, a little tougher. I always consider these like the modern day educationals. Anyway, that one is my honorable mention. Number 10. If the large head monochrome is the honorable mention, then number 10 on the list is going to be the official small head note. Small heads started out in 1928 and went until about 1996 or so, and they feature the standard look that we've seen for so many years. You've got Lincoln, of course, in the center. This one happens to be a star, and actually a solid star error. You can see right there, this one is filled in. But yeah, that is Lincoln. And of course it has the standard back versus what we see on the monochrome, and you can check your wallet for what we currently use. So same building, slightly different image. That is number 10, the small head. Number 9. The small head note wasn't always just the small head. This is from 1928. This is the first issue of the small head note, and this issue they used a little bit darker ink, and they used a number for the district instead of a letter. The back looks the same as this one, but this one doesn't have "In God We Trust." That was not put on our notes until 1957, so this of course would be considered constitutional versus our current money that is not constitutional. So for all of you who are swearing up and down by the Constitution, just remember, putting "In God We Trust" makes our money unconstitutional. Anyway, this is the 1928 version with that numeral there. It is different enough for me to count that as a completely different note. It also has a different obligation. This one has the gold obligation. It's not redeemable for gold. It's back then we had gold coins and you could exchange your note for gold coins. So this says redeemable in gold, even though it's not a gold certificate. Whereas these simply said this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. So that is number 9. Number 8. Speaking of legal tender, here is the Red Seal, $5 legal tender. This one here is from 1928. Now the other one was a Federal Reserve note. Federal Reserve notes, those are different than legal tenders. Legal tender, a law was passed saying we must have a certain amount of money circulating, and the Red Seal would be the legal tender identifier, stating that this note here is in circulation because the law says we have to have so much in circulation, versus a Federal Reserve note, which doesn't have to be backed by anything. This was backed by the lawful obligation to have currency in our system. The back looks exactly like the back of the other 1928. Same back. Maybe looks like a slightly lighter green, but anyway. That is number 8, the 1928 Red Seal. Number 7. Using the same picture, they had the silver certificate from 1934. $5 silver certificate from 1934. This is my favorite silver certificate series because the 34s had the blue numeral here. And I don't know if it's just the picture of Lincoln next to the blue numeral or what, but that numeral just really makes everything pop on here. If you get one of these in decent condition, you can truly appreciate it. This particular series, they did the 1, the 5, and the 10. Only the 34s have the blue numeral. If you get anything from the 50s, it's going to have a gray numeral there instead of the blue. But, of course, it's the same picture. It is a different note, this being a silver certificate, this being a legal tender, and this being a Federal Reserve, but they all use the same picture, including that one as well. So this one is 1098 number 7, the silver certificate from 1934. Number 6. Once again, using the same picture. This is a national currency. This is a Federal Reserve banknote. Not a Federal Reserve note, but a Federal Reserve banknote. Federal Reserve banknotes were backed by individual Federal Reserve banks. There are 12 Federal Reserve banks labeled A through L or numbered 1 through 12, however you want to look at it. This particular one happens to be from Chicago, Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, Illinois. That means that the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, Illinois will pay the bearer on demand. Not the Treasury, not anything else. The actual Federal Reserve Bank was backing the value of this note. And they did use the same picture of Lincoln as we see in all of the others. So that one is number 6. Number 5. Along those same terms and using the same picture again. The other version of national currency, this is from the First Wisconsin National Bank of Milwaukee. This is an actual national banknote. National banknotes were backed by individual banks, this one here being the First Wisconsin National Bank, and each national bank had to prove its worth, let the government in and check the books, and then they'd be given a charter number. This one is a fairly low number, 64 for a charter number. Those went all the way up to 15,000. So to have a 2-digit charter number, that just lets you know how long the bank had been operating. The lower the number, the longer it's been in service, essentially. It does use the same picture of Lincoln that you'd see overall. And the back, once again, the exact same as all of the others. No changes there. But since that was from 1929, it still also does not say "In God We Trust." That is number 5. Number 4. Going with emergency currency from World War II. Once again, same picture of Lincoln. Still a small size $5 note. This one happens to be from the emergency currency issued for Hawaii. The government was worried about Japan invading Hawaii, stealing all the money from the banks. And so they issued this type of currency that has Hawaii here. It has a brown seal, and it has Hawaii on the back. Because they did all this, if Japan would have invaded Hawaii and took out all the money, the government could simply say any Hawaii notes are no longer valid currency, and thus there'd be no reason to take them because they wouldn't have any value. So that was the purpose of the emergency currency. The $5 bill is the harder note to get. It's the most expensive dollar for dollar note. It's the keynote in the series, but it features that same picture of Lincoln. They like that picture. He's made it on a lot of notes with that picture. So that's number 4. Number 3. They also did national currency for North Africa and the European side of World War II. This is the $5 bill from that series. The picture is the same, but this one uses the blue seal here, the blue number, I should say, and it has a yellow seal on this side. Now, there are a bunch of fake yellow seal notes out there. Those are simply red seals that have sun damage or chemical damage to them. This was the only actual yellow seal other than actual gold certificates. So it's always neat to have a true gold seal or yellow seal note. This one on the back, they did not stamp anything like they did with the Hawaii note, but it had the same principle. Any of the gold series notes, if they had been taken in large quantity, we could simply say these are no longer valid, and no one would be accepting them, so it would be pointless to try to steal them. Anyway, that one is number 3, the North Africa, also a keynote in the particular series. The $5 bills are the keynotes. Number 2, I thought this was cool. This is one of my Giori test notes. Now, the Giori printing company decided that they were going to do a new form of printing. It involved using intaglio printing using multiple colors at once, if I recall. So when they were given plates to show what they can do, the plates that they were using were the actual plates or portions of the actual plates, and you can see they just simply put lines through those plates. The problem is that the counterfeiting measures or the counterfeiting laws say that using even a portion of an actual plate is considered counterfeiting. So these were printed and done as test notes, but it was technically illegal to have, and it wasn't until somewhere around 1996 or so that it became legal to own these. So the Giori test note, this is the most common version. It's got a blank back. It has the front done in green. You've got Washington, you've got Lincoln, and you've got Grant. This one, like I said, being the most common version of the Giori notes, that one is number 2. And finally, number 1, one of the rare Giori notes. This Giori test note is done in brown. They call it mud brown. And this one is actually two-sided. It's got a back, you can see here, portions of the 5, portions of the 1. That's portions of the back of the 5 there. And of course, on the front, we still have Lincoln right there. Once again, I think almost all of these use the exact same portrait, but this one has Thomas Jefferson in the center, with Grant, of course, on the other side. This is one of the rarer specimen notes from the Giori test note series. It's 2 different colors, the mud brown and the black, and it has Jefferson instead of Washington. So yeah, definitely a rare one to get a hold of. So those are my top 10 small size notes featuring Lincoln. Tune in next week when I go for the top 10 large size, or different size, however you want to look at it. If you learn anything new, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe. Love reading all your comments. Guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.